Billionaire visits her son's grave and finds a black waitress crying with a child. She was shocked. Hey there, beautiful soul. Welcome back to another story that will grip your heart and won't let go. How have you been since our last one? If this is your first time here, make yourself at home. And if you've been part of our story family, thank you. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. And follow this page. We're building something special here, and you're part of it. The chauffeur opened the door in silence. Celeste Van Alder stepped out, her black coat flowing like velvet shadow behind her. Her heels crunched the gravel of the private cemetery path, though she seemed not to hear it. The groundskeeper gave her a respectful nod. No words. No one ever spoke to her at the graveyard. Not since James died. Her only son. Her only real connection to life. Her fingers clutched white roses. 6 of them. 1 for each year since the accident. Every July 3rd she came here. Every July 3rd she left in silence. But this time, there was someone already there. A woman, young, trembling, kneeling by the headstone. She held the hand of a little boy. The child looked about 5. His skin was the color of warm bronze, his curls wild, his eyes familiar. Too familiar. Celeste stopped mid-step. She watched as the woman's shoulders shook in silent sobs. The boy didn't seem frightened, just sad. He placed a small white daisy at the base of the headstone. His fingers brushed over the name carved in stone. James Van Alder. 1989 to 2018. Celeste's breath caught. And then the boy whispered, "I miss you, Daddy." 6 years earlier, in a worn-out apron and cracked sneakers, Raina Blake served coffee to men in suits who never looked her in the eye. Except one. James Van Alder. He was everything she shouldn't have touched. White, rich, charming. And far too kind to someone like her. But he saw her. Not the waitress. Not the girl in hand-me-downs. He saw Raina. Their connection was secret, quiet. A stolen love born in booths and back alleys. It wasn't scandalous. It was sacred. Until it ended with a phone call. A crash. A funeral she wasn't invited to. A grave she only found 2 years later, when she finally dared to look him up. She kept their son, Elias, away. Out of fear. Out of dignity. She told him stories. Called his father a soldier of dreams. A man who had to go too soon. But today, Elias had begged her. "Can I see where he sleeps?" So they came. And now, here they were. And the billionaire mother was staring at her like a ghost had walked out of the earth. If someone you loved hid a part of their life from you, could you forgive them once you found the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to follow this page so you don't miss what happens next. The summer air was still, but inside Celeste, 1,000 storms were rising. She stood frozen at the path's edge, her eyes locked on the little boy, and the black woman now rising to her feet. Raina wiped her tears quickly, adjusting Elias's shirt as if shielding him from the world that was about to break apart. She recognized the woman approaching instantly. Celeste Van Alder. She'd seen her in newspapers, philanthropy galas, society magazines, and now 6 feet away, wearing sorrow like diamonds. Raina's voice caught in her throat, but she held her ground. Elias peeked out from behind her leg. "Come," Celeste said, her voice like cracked porcelain. "To the car." Her driver moved forward, but Raina stepped back protectively. "No." It was a whisper, a defiance soaked in fear. Celeste's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" Her words weren't cruel, but they were made of steel. Raina breathed deep. I was a friend of James." "Friend?" Celeste repeated, like the word tasted wrong. "Why are you crying at my son's grave?" Before Raina could answer, Elias's small voice cut through the air like a bell in a cathedral. He looked up at Celeste. "Are you my grandma?" The question hung in the air like thunder. And just like that, the billionaire's heart cracked in half. Celeste's lips parted, but no sound came. Her hand trembled slightly. She looked at the boy. Really looked. His nose. The slope of his cheekbones. Those eyes. James's eyes. Celeste's world tilted. She turned to Raina. That can't be. He was mine," Raina said softly, her hand on Elias's head. "And I was his." Celeste didn't invite them to her mansion. She summoned them to the Van Alder Foundation's private office downtown. The room was modern, cold. The walls lined with awards, donations, portraits. She sat behind a massive glass desk. No longer the grieving mother. Now the billionaire matriarch. Raina sat across from her, Elias between them, quietly drawing dinosaurs on hotel stationery Celeste's assistant had brought. You expect me to believe this? Celeste asked. That James had a relationship with you? That this child? I expect nothing, Raina interrupted. You asked. I answered. Her voice wasn't angry. It was calm, worn, like a woman tired of being erased. Celeste's fingers pressed against her temple. My son told me everything, Raina added, softer now. He wanted to tell you, but he was scared. Of me? Celeste blinked. No. Of losing you. Celeste's breath hitched. He thought you wouldn't accept us. Raina pulled something from her purse, a folded, aged photograph. James and Raina in front of the diner. He was kissing her cheek. Her apron was still on. Her eyes were laughing. On the back, in his handwriting. The only place that ever felt like home. Celeste stared at it. Her fingers hovered over the image, but didn't touch it. He kept coming back, Raina said. Even when I told him it wasn't smart. Even when I told him I'd never ask for anything. Celeste finally spoke. But now you're here. Raina's jaw tensed. Not for money. Not for anything. Elias asked to see his father's grave. That's all. They sat in silence. And then Elias broke it again. He pointed at a photo of James on the office wall. That's Daddy. He's in the sky now. Celeste blinked fast. Her voice cracked. He loved you. Raina looked straight into her eyes. Yes. And I loved him. What would you do if your child left behind a secret family, and you found them too late? Let us know in the comments. Your perspective could really open someone's heart today. And if this story has touched you already, please share it with someone who believes in second chances. She thought walking away was the noble thing to do, until she saw the little boy waiting by the gate, still believing in family. The air had shifted. Again, Raina stood at the edge of a manicured courtyard, hugging her arms tightly. She watched Elias chase a butterfly near a hedge maze, his giggles like wind chimes in the silence. Behind her, the glass doors hissed open. Celeste stepped out, heels clicking on stone. She didn't speak at first. Just stood beside Raina, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the boy. You didn't tell him about me, she finally said. Raina didn't turn. He thinks his grandma died before he was born. Celeste's voice went hard. Why would you lie? It wasn't a lie, Raina said softly. It was a mercy. Celeste's jaw clenched. You think keeping him from his family is mercy? His father died trying to prove he could make both worlds work, Raina snapped. I wasn't going to let your world chew up his son. That landed. Celeste's lips parted, then pressed shut. Do you even have a job? She asked coldly. Raina turned to face her now. I'm a waitress. At the same diner your son kept sneaking off to, week after week. Celeste's face twisted, shame, denial, grief. All warring at once. And what do you want now? Raina exhaled. Nothing. I was leaving. Elias just wanted to say goodbye to his daddy one last time. Celeste's voice softened just slightly. You were going to walk away? Raina's eyes shimmered, but she nodded. Because that's what your world expects. Inside the foundation building, Raina helped Elias gather his drawings and button his sweater. The boy was tired but cheerful, full of innocence that didn't match the air between the two women. Celeste stood near the door. She looked at Elias, her voice a whisper. Can I see him again? Raina hesitated, then nodded once. We're leaving town tomorrow, going back to Georgia. The billionaire flinched. You're running. I'm protecting him. Celeste's voice cracked now. Or you're punishing me. That hit too close. Raina turned her back. Goodbye, Mrs. Van Alder. The apartment was small, clean, quiet. Elias was asleep, curled against his mother with a stuffed rabbit that once belonged to James. Raina stared at the ceiling. In her phone, an unread message blinked. From a number she didn't save. Please don't take him away. I need to know him. Celeste. Raina turned off the screen. She curled tighter around Elias. Her voice was a whisper into the dark. I need to protect you from the pain your father never escaped. Celeste stood in her son's room. Nothing had changed in 3 years. The same baseball glove on the shelf. The same worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird on the nightstand. The bottle of aftershave untouched. She sat on the edge of the bed. Tears fell freely now. I didn't know you loved her, she whispered. I didn't know you had him. She opened the drawer. Inside, a small velvet box. His father's watch. Both women couldn't sleep that night. Both held an object that reminded them of James. And both believed they were doing the right thing by letting go. But the child in between. He believed they belonged together. And sometimes, the smallest heart carries the strongest hope. Can love protect a child more than truth? Or does every child deserve to know their roots, no matter how painful? Share your answer in the comments below. You never know who your insight might help. 2 days later, the bus was packed. Elias sat on Raina's lap, holding his backpack tightly. Rain pelted the windows. They were heading back to Georgia. Back to where life was simpler, poorer, but predictable. Raina stared out the window, her eyes tired. She didn't notice her phone buzzing until the third time. She glanced down. Caller ID. The Bridge Foundation Elementary Campus. She froze, thumb hovering. She answered. Hello. A teacher's rushed voice. Ms. Wells? I'm so sorry to call. Elias left his drawings here after the memorial visit. But that's not the real reason. There's something urgent. Can you come in today? Raina frowned. We're on a bus. It's about a health screening. It's best you hear it in person. And Ms. Van Alder will be present. Raina's blood ran cold. Celeste. The room was quiet. White walls, soft lights. A counselor, a pediatrician, and Celeste sat waiting when Raina stepped in with Elias's hand in hers. Raina's eyes flicked to Celeste. She kept her face neutral. What's this about? The pediatrician, Dr. Selman, stood. Elias took part in our foundation's routine screening protocol. It's standard for scholarship children. But we noticed some cardiac irregularities. Raina's stomach dropped. What kind of irregularities? Celeste's face was pale, lips pressed tightly. Dr. Selman handed Raina a printed chart. Nothing alarming yet, but enough that we recommend an echocardiogram. His father's file mentioned a genetic predisposition. Raina's hands trembled. James had a heart murmur as a child. How fast can he get one? Celeste cleared her throat. I've already booked him in. Top pediatric cardiologist in the city. I'll cover everything. Raina turned slowly. No. Celeste blinked. What? I'll take care of it. He's my grandson. He's my son. Elias stood between them, confused. He looked up at Celeste, then at Raina, then tugged on Celeste's sleeve gently. Are you mad at my mommy? Celeste knelt slowly, voice trembling. No, baby. I'm just worried about you. Raina turned her face away, wiping her eyes. Celeste looked up. Let me help. I don't want your money, Raina whispered. Celeste straightened. Then let me give you time. Raina paced inside a polished guest suite the size of her entire apartment. She hated being here. She hated how the sheets were softer, the towels warmer, the food better. Everything screamed wealth she didn't ask for. Elias was asleep in the next room. Raina stood at the window, arms folded tightly. The door creaked. Celeste stood there in a robe, a mug in her hand. Chamomile, she said, setting it on the desk. You look like you needed it. Raina didn't respond. I know this is awkward, Celeste tried. No, Raina said flatly. This is war. Celeste looked hurt. I'm not trying to take him from you. You tried once already. That's enough. There was a pause. Then Celeste stepped forward and said something that broke the tension completely. I lost my son 3 years ago. I won't lose his again. Late night confession. Shared grief begins to open the gate. Raina's voice cracked. Do you know what it's like to hold a child and realize he'll never know his father? Celeste's eyes glistened. I buried my son without knowing he was a father, she said. So yes, they didn't speak for a long time. Just 2 women, 2 mothers, sitting in silence. Finally, Raina whispered, I'm terrified something's wrong with Elias. And Celeste finally said, then let's be terrified together. Can grief make strangers family, or does it only sharpen the walls between us? Speech balloon, let me know in the comments. What would you do in Raina's shoes? Sometimes the truth we bury grows roots that bloom in the lives of others. Raina never wanted to know what happened that night, nor did Celeste ever thought she'd confess. But the truth had waited, and it refused to die quietly. Raina sat stiffly, eyes glued to the screen as the doctor explained the echo results. Elias lay on the bed, calm under the probe's gel. See here, Dr. Mehta pointed. This valve? Slightly narrowed. Nothing surgical. Just ongoing observation. Celeste released a breath. Raina's hands unclenched. We'll do another scan in 6 months, the doctor said. Raina nodded, voice low. Thank you. Celeste's car, quiet drive back. Elias slept in the back seat, his hand clutching a plastic toy the nurse had given him. Raina stared out the window. Silence stretched. Celeste finally asked, Do you ever think about that night? Raina's body tensed. I try not to. Celeste gripped the steering wheel. I think about it every morning. Every night. The last time I saw him, he said something strange. Raina looked over. Celeste's voice was brittle. He said, I hope one day you forgive me for choosing something else. It was 3 years ago. Celeste was sitting in her glass office, papers in hand. James stormed in. I'm leaving for a while, he said. There's someone I need to see. Celeste stood. Her again. James shook his head. No, this time it's not about anger. It's about healing. I gave you everything, Celeste snapped. No, James whispered. You gave me purpose. But she gave me peace. Raina whispered. He was coming to see us? Celeste nodded. I never told you because I didn't want to admit. He was leaving everything for you. He had planned to propose. I found the ring box in his glove compartment after the crash. Raina gasped, hand flying to her mouth. Her legs folded under her. Celeste pulled over, car humming beneath them. In the quiet car, Raina wept. And for the first time, Celeste reached for her hand. Raina sat cross-legged on a velvet couch, Elias asleep upstairs. Celeste entered holding a brown box. What's that? Raina asked. James's letters, Celeste said softly. I never opened them. I thought they were for me. But the first line proves they weren't. She slid the top letter over. Raina opened it with shaking hands. My Rain, if you're reading this, I made it to you. Or maybe I didn't. But I needed you to know. Elias looks just like you when he sleeps. And every time I shut my eyes, I see your laugh. If I don't come home, tell him I loved him before I knew his name. Tears fell silently onto the page. Raina pressed it to her chest. I thought he abandoned us, she said. I thought he betrayed me, Celeste replied. Turns out we both got it wrong. It was late. James sat in the corner booth of Raina's favorite place, a beat-up diner with flickering neon. He wore a ball cap, head bowed. Raina brought over a milkshake. James looked up, eyes warm. I missed this, he whispered. What, the food? No, he said, this being seen. Celeste's voice shook. I thought power meant love. But he didn't need power. He needed someone who made him feel human. Raina whispered. That's what he said to me once. They looked at each other. Not as enemies. Not yet as friends. But as two women who had loved the same broken man. And had been left with pieces of him they both needed to protect. Have you ever judged someone too quickly, only to discover a truth that changed everything? Speech balloon, share your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every single one. Also, don't forget to follow. Thanks, folded hands. You see, healing doesn't start with forgiveness. It starts with being seen and still accepted. Raina never imagined they'd laugh together. Celeste never imagined she'd feel peace beside the woman who took her son's love. But grief, when shared, has a strange way of becoming grace. The next day at Celeste's estate kitchen, early morning. The sun spilled through marble-framed windows. Raina stood at the stove in borrowed pajamas, making pancakes. Celeste entered in a silk robe, blinking. You cook? She asked, surprised. Raina shrugged. I don't sleep well when I'm not home, so I keep busy. Celeste stepped closer, noticing Elias on the couch, snuggled under a throw blanket, watching cartoons. They smell edible, Celeste said, teasing. Raina smiled. You're welcome to try. They shared their first real laugh. And something cracked open. Elias giggled as syrup dripped down his chin. Raina reached over with a napkin. Celeste poured coffee into Raina's mug without asking, just like she belonged. I used to hate the sound of kids eating, Celeste said. Raina looked up. Now, I think it's one of the most honest sounds in the world. Raina said softly. I never thought we'd be sitting at the same table. Celeste looked at her. Neither did I. But here we are. The two women sat outside. Elias played in the grass nearby with a toy truck Celeste had brought down from the attic. James's old one. You know, Celeste began, when James was 5, he painted that truck with nail polish. Raina smiled. Let me guess, your polish? Of course, Celeste smirked. Hot pink. I was furious. But he said, now it sparkles like sunshine. They both laughed. Celeste added, he always saw things differently. Raina nodded. He saw me before I saw myself. Celeste's smile faltered. He saw too much. And I made him feel like that was a flaw. Raina turned serious. I hated you for a long time. Celeste didn't flinch. I earned it. You were the symbol of everything I thought I'd never have. Wealth, power, legitimacy. And you, Celeste replied quietly, were the one thing I couldn't buy. His heart. They didn't say anything for a while. Then Reina whispered, I never stopped loving him. Celeste said, neither did I. Tears welled up in both their eyes, but there was no bitterness left, only the shared ache of absence and the fragile comfort of understanding. Elias climbed onto Celeste's lap, sleepy and warm. She read him a bedtime story, Where the Wild Things Are. Her voice was soft, motherly, and real. Reina watched from the doorway, heart aching in a way she couldn't name. After tucking him in, Celeste walked out with Reina. I never got to read that to James, she said. Reina looked at her. Maybe now you are. The air was cool. The wine was light. Reina whispered, You think we could try? Not friendship. Not family. Just civility. Celeste looked over. Civility is easy, she said. But I'd rather aim for something harder. Reina frowned. Celeste added gently, forgiveness. They sat in silence. Then Reina whispered, I'm not ready. Celeste smiled. Me neither. They clinked glasses anyway. Forgiveness could wait. Connection had already begun. What would it take for you to forgive someone who broke your heart? If they were hurting too, drop a comment below. Your voice matters in this story. Also, please subscribe if you haven't. Trust is fragile. And sometimes love gets buried under old wounds. She thought they were healing. But healing has layers, and the deepest ones bleed when touched. It was at her estate study, during the mid-morning. Reina walked into the study holding a folder. Celeste was at her desk, looking over old photo albums of James. Reina hesitated. There's something I need to show you. Celeste closed the album. What is it? Reina placed the folder on the desk. Inside were copies of legal documents. A guardianship form, signed by James, naming Reina as Elias's sole guardian. Celeste stiffened. You found this now? Reina nodded. In his storage unit. He never told me he had it notarized. But it's real. Celeste looked up sharply. So what? You're warning me off. No, Reina whispered. I just thought you should see it. Before we go any further. Celeste stood, the air suddenly colder. So after all this time, this piece, you want to make it legal. That I'm nothing. Reina's voice cracked. That's not what I said. But it's what it means. Reina blinked. You think I want to take him away from you? After everything. You already have. You had my son. You have his child. And now you want to cement it. To erase me. Reina's eyes filled. That's not fair. Celeste's voice cut. Fair died the day my son chose you. Reina turned away, remembering. The night James had left his mother's estate for good. He begged you, she whispered. To love him, even if he loved me. You slammed the door on him. I was there. I saw it. Celeste's jaw tightened. You want to talk about erasing someone? Reina asked. You started it. With him. With me. With Elias. Celeste snapped. You were the mistake he died defending. Reina staggered like she'd been slapped. She whispered, How dare you? I lost my son because of you. No, Reina said, her voice breaking. You lost him because you couldn't love who he really was. Celeste's eyes flared with unshed tears. Elias appeared in the doorway, clutching a toy. Mommy. Both women froze. The child looked between them, then ran into Reina's arms, sensing the tension. Celeste whispered, Maybe it's better if you leave. Reina stared at her, then nodded, and walked out, holding Elias close. Reina sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the ceiling. Elias slept next to her, curled into a ball. She whispered into the darkness. Maybe I was wrong to hope. Tears slid silently down her face. Meanwhile, back at the estate, Celeste sat in the garden, with the old pink-painted truck in her lap. Alone, just like before. Do you think grief can blind us to love that's standing right in front of us? Share your thoughts in the comments. This moment hits deep for many of us. They had every reason to walk away. But love, real love, always dares to return. Sometimes the first step toward healing is the quietest. A knock, a note, a whisper of I'm sorry. Reina sat at the tiny table, holding Elias's sock. She hadn't slept. Elias stirred on the bed. Are we going to the mansion? Reina swallowed. Not today, baby. Why? She smiled, heartbroken. We just need some time. He pouted but nodded. Is Reina battling to choosing dignity or hope? We will see. Later that morning, Reina stared at her phone. She had drafted a message to Celeste 3 times. Deleted it twice. Should she apologize? Should she say nothing? She remembered how Celeste had once looked at Elias with warmth. The photo she took of them still sat on her phone's gallery. Raina finally tapped out one line. "He still talks about you. Just thought you should know." She hit send, then closed her eyes. At the estate, Celeste sat in the greenhouse. The message arrived. She read it, reread it, then set the phone down and covered her face. The truth tasted bitter now. She had pushed them away, just like she had pushed James once. She remembered the last time she saw her son. "Mom," James had said, "please, just meet her. That's all I'm asking." And she had said coldly, "When you're done embarrassing the family, come home." That was 2 weeks before the accident. She'd never said sorry. Not once. Her hand trembled as she picked up the phone. She typed, "Do you still have the drawing he made? I'd like to frame it for the estate." Raina replied minutes later, "We do. Would you like to come by?" A pause. Then, "I'll come. Thank you." That evening, Raina opened the motel room door. Celeste stood there, no driver, no diamonds, no guard. Just her. In her hand, she held a single lily. "I wasn't sure what to bring," Celeste said. "He liked lilies, didn't he?" Raina stepped aside. Celeste walked in and knelt down next to Elias, who was drawing. He looked up. "Hi." Celeste smiled. "That's beautiful. Can I sit with you?" He nodded. And just like that, the silence became peace. As Elias colored, Celeste sat beside Raina on the edge of the bed. "I said horrible things," Celeste whispered. "I've said some too," Raina admitted. "Grief doesn't always come out gentle. I wasn't ready to lose him. I wasn't ready to raise his child alone." They both looked at Elias. "Maybe we don't have to do either of those things alone anymore," Celeste said. Raina looked at her cautiously. Celeste reached into her coat. "A letter. Unopened. It's from James. He left it for you. I was too bitter to give it before." Raina took it with shaking hands. "Have you ever had to choose between your pain and the people you love? What helped you make that choice?" Backhand index pointing down. Drop your story in the comments. Someone out there needs it. Pain led them to each other. Love helped them stay. Now a little boy's drawing and a man's last words will shape their future. It's not the goodbye that breaks us. It's what we leave unsaid. But sometimes grace gives us one last chance. Raina sat on the edge of the bed, the envelope in her hand. It was yellowed at the edges. James's name scrawled across it in familiar ink. Celeste had her eyes fixed on Elias, who was showing her his new dinosaur drawings, his tiny voice filled with wonder. Raina finally opened it. "My dearest Raina, I know I've hurt you with my silence. I should have fought harder. But I was scared. Not of loving you. God, I've never loved anyone more. But of what that love would cost you. My mother, the pressure, the cameras. But I want you to know I chose you. In every life, I'd choose you. If you're reading this, I didn't get the chance to say goodbye. But please, don't let Elias grow up thinking I didn't want him. I did. With all my soul. Tell him that when he laughs, it sounds like summer. Tell him that I kissed your belly every night, hoping he'd hear me. And Raina, forgive her if she tries. She didn't know how to love me. Maybe she'll learn with him. My whole life, I wanted peace. I found it with you. I love you. Always. James. _ By the end of the letter, Raina was weeping. Celeste, too, sat quietly, dabbing her eyes. Elias came over and climbed into Raina's lap. "Are you sad, Mommy?" She shook her head. "No, baby. Not anymore." Elias looked at Celeste, then back at the letter. "Was that from my daddy?" "Yes," Celeste whispered, voice catching. "And he loved you very much." Elias nodded solemnly, then did something no one expected. He took his drawing, a house with 3 stick figures, and handed it to Celeste. "You can keep it." Celeste blinked. "Are these us?" He grinned. "Yeah, that's you. And Mommy. And me." 1 week later, 3 people stood before James's grave. Celeste placed fresh lilies down. Raina held Elias's hand. Elias looked up at the engraved name. "This is my daddy." "Yes," Raina said. "He would have loved you so much." Celeste knelt and added softly, "But I think he still does. He brought us together." Celeste turned to Raina. "I know I can't undo what I said, but if you'll let me, I'd like to help. With Elias. With everything." Raina took a long breath. "You won't be spoiling him. He's not a project or a fix for guilt." Celeste shook her head. "He's a second chance. For me too." They stood in silence. And then, Celeste extended her hand. Raina looked at it, then took it. Not everything broken stays shattered. Some things rebuild stronger. A billionaire, a waitress, a boy without a father. 3 strangers, connected by loss and bound by love. Not the kind in fairy tales, but the real kind. Earned, messy, undeniable. If you've ever lost someone but found a piece of them in someone new, you understand. You know this kind of story, and maybe you've lived it too. The end. But the feelings, they stay with us. Have you ever had someone walk back into your life when you least expected it? Someone who changed everything? Tell us your story in the comments. You never know who it might help or heal. Hey, beautiful soul, if this story moved you, imagine the next one waiting just around the corner. Subscribe now so you're the first to hear it when we release another unforgettable emotional story tomorrow. Don't miss it. Stories that speak to the heart every day. And please tap the like button, drop a comment, and follow my page for more deep, life-changing storytelling just like this. We're building something special here, and you're part of it.